My name is Anna. 2 years ago, my husband, Ben, and I moved to a small town. We were tired of the city and wanted a quieter life, closer to nature. We found a little house with a big yard, and there's a river nearby and a beautiful forest just a short drive away. It's so peaceful here. We love it. We're thinking about starting a family, and we think this is a great place to raise kids. We met our neighbors, Tom and Sarah, pretty soon after moving in. They're about our age, and they don't have kids yet either. We started hanging out. We'd have barbecues in the backyard, or go hiking in the woods. Life was simple, and we were happy. Tom's a long-haul trucker. He's on the road for weeks at a time. Sarah gets pretty lonely when he's gone. She started asking for little favors, things around the house. Ben and I always tried to help out. But I started noticing. She asked Ben more and more. Could he fix a leaky faucet? Could he help her move some furniture? At first, I didn't think anything of it. Ben's just a helpful guy, and I trust him. But then I started noticing things. Sarah started dressing differently when Ben was around. She'd put on nicer clothes than she usually wore, and she'd always smile at Ben in this way that made me a little uncomfortable. I tried to brush it off, but I started to get a weird feeling in my stomach. Ben didn't seem to notice at first. He just thought he was being a good neighbor. But then he started staying at Sarah's house longer than usual. I'd be waiting for him, wondering what was taking so long. He'd say he was just helping with little things, but I could feel something was off. One day, I asked Ben, "Why are you spending so much time at Sarah's?" He looked surprised and said, "I'm just helping her out. She needs a hand with things since Tom's gone." I nodded, but it didn't really make me feel better. I started paying closer attention. When Ben went over to Sarah's, I'd try to find an excuse to go over too. I just wanted to see what was going on. Every time I went over, Sarah would act like everything was perfectly fine, but I could see the way she looked at Ben. It wasn't just friendly anymore. There was something else there, something that made me uneasy. One evening, Ben came home late again. I asked him what kept him. He said he was helping Sarah jump-start her car. I didn't believe him. How kiss all wern hitumita. I didn't say anything, but I just knew something was up. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started having these weird dreams about Sarah. She'd be trying to take Ben away from me. I'd wake up feeling angry and scared. I knew I had to talk to Ben again, but I didn't know how to bring it up. One day, I saw Ben and Sarah talking outside. They were standing really close, and Sarah was laughing. My heart started racing. I couldn't take it anymore. I went outside and asked them what was going on. Sarah smiled at me, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Oh, Anna, we were just talking about her flower garden," she said. I looked at Ben. He didn't say anything. How I know, Tanatar our chero. He just looked uncomfortable. That night, I told Ben how I felt. I told him I didn't like the way Sarah was acting, and I didn't like how much time he was spending with her. Ben was quiet for a while, then he said, "I'm sorry, Anna. I didn't realize it was bothering you so much." I felt a little better, but I still wasn't completely sure I could trust him. From that day on, Ben tried to avoid Sarah. He stopped going over to her house as much, and I noticed Sarah started spending more time by herself. Weeks went by, and things seemed to go back to normal, but I couldn't shake the whole thing off. I trust Ben, but I don't really trust Sarah. I know she wanted something more, and I'm glad I spoke up before it went too far. Even though Ben promised to stay away from Sarah so much, I still felt uneasy whenever he went outside. I was scared Sarah would approach him. I didn't want to become the kind of wife who constantly kept watch on her husband, but I couldn't help it. One day, Sarah came over to our house. She had a plate of cookies in her hands and smiled nicely. "Hi, Anna," she said. "I baked these for you and Ben. I hope you like them." "So, I hope you like them." I smiled back, trying to be polite. "Thank you, Sarah," I said, taking the plate. "Is Ben home?" "Oh?" she asked, looking around me, trying to see if he was inside. I wanted to say no, but I knew Ben was just in the next room. "Yes, he's here," I said, feeling my heart beat faster. "But he's busy right now." Sarah looked disappointed, but quickly smiled again. "Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'll let you two enjoy the cookies. Let me know if you need anything." "Oh, I'd shout go say to." She waved and left. I closed the door and felt a strange mix of relief and worry. I didn't want to let Sarah get between Ben and me, but she seemed to keep trying to stay close to him. That night, I told Ben about how Sarah came over with the cookies. He laughed a little and said, "I think she's just trying to be neighborly. You don't have to worry." But I wasn't so sure. Sarah's smiles and the way she looked at Ben didn't seem friendly to me. I decided that the best thing to do was to keep a distance from her. The next week, Ben went back to his usual routine of helping around the house, working in the garden, and spending time with me. I felt happy that things were returning to normal. We talked more, went on walks together, and everything seemed fine again. But one day, while Ben was at work, I saw Sarah at the hardware store. She came over and said, "You know, Anna, your husband is so helpful. I don't know what I would do without him." Her words made me uncomfortable, but I smiled politely. "Yes, he's a good man." Sarah laughed softly. "He's more than just good, isn't he? You're very lucky to have him." I didn't like the way she said that, but I didn't want to argue with her. I just nodded and said, "Yes, I am." For the next few weeks, Sarah didn't come around as much. Ben and I started spending more time together, and I felt like our relationship was getting stronger. I wanted to believe that everything was okay, but part of me still didn't trust Sarah. One afternoon, Ben came home from work and told me that Tom, Sarah's husband, was coming home soon. I felt relieved. I hoped that once Tom was back, Sarah would stop trying to get close to Ben. When Tom returned, everything seemed to change. Sarah stopped asking for Ben's help, and we didn't see her much anymore. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. It seemed like the problem had solved itself. Ben and I continued to enjoy our life in the town. We went on trips together, worked in the garden, and talked about starting a family. I was happy again, and I started to forget about the whole situation with Sarah. One evening, as we were sitting outside watching the sunset, I looked at Ben and felt grateful. I realized that I needed to trust him more. He had always been there for me, and I knew he loved me. I didn't want to let my fears ruin what we had. I turned to Ben and said, "I'm sorry if I ever doubted you." Ben looked surprised. "Doubted me? Why?" I smiled. "Because I love you, and I know you would never hurt me." Ben took my hand and said, "I love you too, Anna. I would never do anything to hurt you." From that moment, I felt peace in my heart. Sarah was just a small part of our story, but Ben and I were building something much bigger. Our life together. As time passed, we stopped thinking about Sarah. Tom and Sarah moved away a few months later because Tom got a new trucking route in another state. After they left, life in the town became peaceful again. Ben and I started talking more seriously about having children, and we looked forward to the future. In the end, I learned that trust and communication are the most important things in a relationship, no matter what challenges come our way. I know Ben and I can get through them together. The end. Ao and pan el way.